Sean Combs is about to walk out federal prison, and the reason has nothing to do with mercy, nothing to do with law, and everything to do with the fact that Sean Combs opened a mouth that had stayed sealed for 30 years. Listen to me carefully, because what you are about to hear did not come from a rumor mill. It came from federal filings, from confirmed CBS reporting, from a pardon meeting that happened on a Friday everyone in Hollywood is now pretending they slept through. Sean Combs sat down with people who had the power to end the sentence, and Sean Combs did what survivors of that inner circle always swore Sean Combs would never do. Sean Combs gave them the list. Not a rumor list, not a Twitter list, a federal list. Names, rooms, dates, who walked in, who watched, who paid, who fixed, who signed the checks that made the whole machine hum for 3 decades. And the reason your favorite billionaire has not slept in 4 nights, the reason a certain music executive is deleting group chats, the reason a certain actor was seen leaving his lawyer's office at 11 at night with a face that looked like a man reading his own obituary, is because Sean Combs told him everything. Now here's the part nobody on cable news is willing to say out loud. So Sean Combs will say it for them. This is not a pardon story. This is a hostage exchange. Sean Combs is the hostage. The names are the ransom. And Donald Trump is the man holding the pen. Let me back up, because you need to understand exactly how impossible this moment was supposed to be. Sean Combs was convicted. Sean Combs was sentenced. Sean Combs was sitting inside Fort Dix serving 50 months on a Mann Act conviction that the defense team had already told the Second Circuit was legally bizarre. The appeal has been sitting with those federal judges since April. The judges reportedly called the appeal exceptionally difficult, which in judge language means nobody wanted to be the person who signed the order that let Sean Combs walk out clean. So the appeal froze, and Sean Combs was staring down 4 more calendars turning over inside a cell, where a man who once threw the greatest parties on the American coastline was eating meals off a tray. The civil lawsuits were still stacking. The financial empire was already bleeding out. The apparel deals were gone. The tequila brand was gone. The friends who once posed for Getty shots at those white parties would not even take a phone call from Sean Combs' own attorneys anymore. That is when the offer arrived. Nobody has confirmed which prosecutor carried it in, but the outline of the deal is not a mystery anymore. Give us the network. Give us the guest list that never made Instagram. Give us the private after parties, the private planes, the private rooms behind the doors that had 2 security guards each. Give us the names of every person who walked into those rooms, and every person who walked out pretending it never happened. Do that. And the man in the White House signs a piece of paper, and Sean Combs goes home before the 4th of July fireworks finish. Sean Combs took the deal. Of course Sean Combs took the deal. Sean Combs did not build a 3-decade empire by being loyal to people who went quiet the second the indictment dropped. Sean Combs built the empire by understanding one law of power that never breaks. Whoever holds the most secrets wins. And Sean Combs held more secrets than anyone in the entertainment industry has held since the studio system. So Sean Combs traded them. Now here is what makes this different from every other cooperating witness story you have ever heard. Sean Combs was not a mid-level associate flipping on a boss. Sean Combs was the boss. Sean Combs was the room. Sean Combs was the invite list. Federal investigators have been trying to reconstruct that network for years, and they only had pieces. Cassie Ventura's testimony was a piece. Kid Cudi's firebomb car was a piece. Dawn Richards' account of Sean Combs allegedly striking Cassie in a restaurant while celebrities kept eating was a piece. The hotel hallway surveillance footage that the whole country watched last year was a piece. But nobody had the whole picture. Nobody had the guest lists. Nobody had the after parties where the phones got collected at the door. Sean Combs did. And now, if the reporting is accurate, the federal government does too. Let me tell you what that means in real terms, because the panic in Los Angeles this week is not a metaphor. Phones are ringing at 11 at night. Crisis PR firms in West Hollywood are getting calls from numbers that never called before. 2 very famous attorneys in Manhattan have reportedly cleared their entire July calendars. A certain music mogul flew private to a country with no extradition treaty on Tuesday, and the flight was booked 6 hours before takeoff. That does not happen unless the passenger heard something. And what the passenger heard was that Sean Combs had already sat in the room and started talking. The pardon team, the actual career lawyers whose job it is to vet clemency petitions, reportedly did not put Sean Combs on their list. That is a detail that got buried in the CBS report, and it is the detail that changes the entire story. Trump is personally overriding the professionals. The President of the United States is going around the pardon office. To free a man the pardon office, refuse to recommend. There's only one reason the President does that. Somebody with the authority to make the deal made the deal. And the deal is worth more to the government than the sentence Sean Combs was serving. Which brings us to the angle nobody else is running. And this is where you need to stay with Sean Combs' story, because this is the part that flips the whole case sideways. Everyone else is asking who is on the list. Sean Combs is going to tell you who put Sean Combs in a room to write that list. Because a cooperation deal this size does not appear out of thin air. It gets built. It gets built by prosecutors who want a bigger fish, by investigators who already know who the bigger fish is, and by lawyers on the other side who understand that their client just became more valuable outside prison than inside. Somebody at the Department of Justice looked at Sean Combs and did not see a defendant anymore. Somebody looked at Sean Combs and saw a map. Somebody realized that the biggest names in American entertainment, the biggest names in American music, and possibly a handful of names in American politics were all downstream of one man who had been collecting receipts since the mid-90s. That somebody made the offer. And now every domino Sean Combs ever set up is standing in a line waiting to fall. Start with Jay-Z. Jay-Z was named in a civil lawsuit alleging Jay-Z and Sean Combs assaulted a 13-year-old at a VMA after-party in the year 2000. Jay-Z denied it. Jay-Z's team called the claim unfounded. Fine, that is Jay-Z's version. But Sean Combs was there. Sean Combs remembers who else was there. Sean Combs remembers who drove Jay-Z home that night. And if Sean Combs is telling the federal government what Sean Combs remembers, then the Roc Nation empire that has spent 25 years perfecting the art of strategic silence is suddenly facing a threat that silence cannot solve. Beyonce is a name Sean Combs used to call extended family. Photographs exist of Beyonce at the parties. Photographs exist of Beyonce in that social circle. Nobody is accusing Beyonce of anything. That has to be stated. But if Sean Combs handed federal investigators a detailed accounting of who was present at which room on which date, then the Carter machine, the most image control machine in modern celebrity, is now waiting to find out what a cooperating witness said about the woman married to the man Sean Combs used to call brother. Usher was sent to live with Sean Combs at 13. Usher himself later described rooms a child should never have opened a door on. Usher has spent 2 decades carefully managing how much of that story leaves Usher's mouth. That control ends the moment Sean Combs tells his version, because Sean Combs was the adult in that house. Sean Combs remembers what Usher saw, what Usher understood, and what Usher was too young to name at the time. Whatever version of that story Usher has kept sealed, Sean Combs may have just unsealed it in a federal interview room. Justin Bieber was introduced to Sean Combs as a teenager through Usher and Scooter Braun. Old footage exists. The footage has been resurfaced. The footage has been reread by an internet that reads footage very differently now. Justin Bieber has never fully explained what those years around Sean Combs actually contained. Justin Bieber may not have to explain. Sean Combs may have already explained on Justin Bieber's behalf, and the explanation is now inside a file with a case number. Ashton Kutcher went on Hot Ones and got asked about Diddy party stories. Ashton Kutcher said, quote, "I've got a lot I can't tell." That clip has been playing on a loop across every corner of the internet since the arrest. Ashton Kutcher has looked like a man walking on eggshells every time the topic surfaces. Ashton Kutcher and Sean Combs were close for years. Ashton Kutcher partied with Sean Combs for years. And now the thing Ashton Kutcher can't tell may have already been told by the one person in the room with the receipts to prove it. The Kardashians attended the white parties. Everyone knows that. Khloe Kardashian famously came home from one and told Kourtney the majority of the guests didn't have clothes on. That was the public party. The public party is not the one federal investigators care about. Federal investigators care about the parties that never had a hashtag, the parties that never had a photographer, the parties where phones were collected in a bowl at the front door. Sean Combs knows exactly which member of that family showed up to which of those events. If Sean Combs handed that list over, the billion-dollar image machine the Kardashian family spent 15 years building is suddenly at the mercy of a redacted federal document. Paris Hilton called Sean Combs' 50th birthday, quote, "sick, so epic." Leonardo DiCaprio was named in text, messages recovered from a former assistant. LeBron James went on Instagram Live in 2020 and told the world ain't no party like a Diddy party. LeBron James has said nothing about that footage since the indictment. LeBron James now has a Nike contract, a Fenway ownership stake, and a legacy that lives inside a very carefully engineered image. And Sean Combs is the one man who knows which Diddy party LeBron James actually walked into and which one LeBron James only heard about. Jennifer Lopez dated Sean Combs. Jennifer Lopez was in the club the night of the 1999 firearm arrest. Jennifer Lopez walked away from that relationship and built a career of astonishing durability. But Sean Combs remembers a version of Jennifer Lopez the public was never given. And that version is now, apparently, on a page inside a folder inside a Justice Department office. Cuba Gooding Jr. was named in the Rodney Jones yacht lawsuit. Cuba Gooding Jr. already pled guilty in a separate abuse-related case in 2023. Sean Combs was on that yacht. Sean Combs saw what Sean Combs saw. And if Sean Combs is cooperating, Cuba Gooding Jr. is a man whose next indictment might not be a matter of if. Prince Harry was named in court filings, not as a participant, but as what the filings call a legitimizer, somebody invited to make Sean Combs' events look legitimate. Prince Harry is not accused of anything. That has to be said clearly. But Prince Harry's name being adjacent to any of this is a headline the palace never wanted to be adjacent to. Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group, the single most powerful executive in the entire recorded music industry, was named in a lawsuit alleging Lucian Grange knew and allowed. Universal denied it. Fine. But Sean Combs worked with Universal. Sean Combs knew what Sean Combs knew. And if Sean Combs handed the federal government a timeline of who signed off on which budget for which event, then the man who signs the checks that shaped the careers of Taylor Swift, Drake, Ariana Grande, and half the Billboard Hot 100 is a name that just entered federal orbit. Kid Cudi, Chris Brown, Neo, Drake, Wiz Khalifa. Yeah, every one of those names surfaced during trial testimony, in jury selection, in physical exhibits, or in cross-examination. Every one of them has a version of a story that Sean Combs also has a version of, and Sean Combs' version is the version that just got walked into a federal building. And here's where the whole thing collapses into itself. Donald Trump used to call Sean Combs Puff Daddy. Donald Trump himself said, quote, "I was very friendly with him." Melania Trump attended the events. Donald Trump moved in that world before politics. And now the same Donald Trump is the one signing the pardon that frees the witness who mapped that world. The conflict of interest is not subtle. The conflict of interest is not even hidden. The President of the United States is personally freeing the one witness whose testimony could be used against people the President knew personally. And the pardon office was overruled to make it happen. That is the unique angle nobody is willing to run. It is not who is on the list. It is who is allowed to touch the list. Because a list that includes the President's former social circle, the President's donors, the President's rivals, and the President's celebrity friends is not a list. It is a weapon, and the man holding the pen just handed the freedom card to the one person who knows how to load it. Now here's what happens next. Sean Combs walks out inside the 250 pardons that Trump is planning to announce for the semi-quincentennial Independence Day event. The Justice Department, under a president personally involved in the release, quietly decides which names from the Combs file get acted on and which names get lost in a filing cabinet in a basement in Washington. The names that get acted on start receiving what federal defense attorneys call target letters. Some of those names hire lawyers and start their own cooperation deals. Some of those names go quiet and hope the storm blows past. And some of those names, the ones who really cannot afford daylight on what happened inside those rooms, start moving assets to jurisdictions that do not extradite. The list Sean Combs provided reportedly includes over 100 names, not 100 rumors. 100 names, attached to 100 rooms, attached to 100 nights. Some of those names are celebrities. Some are executives. Some are athletes. Some are politicians. Some are the fixers, the security consultants, the lawyers who drafted the NDAs, the accountants who processed the settlement payments, the assistants who signed non-disclosures at 18 years old and are now 35 and wondering if their signature just became evidence. Sean Combs may have named the entire infrastructure, not just the guests, the machine. That is why this is bigger than a scandal. That is why this is bigger than a cooperation deal. That is why Hollywood is genuinely afraid this time in a way Hollywood was not afraid during Weinstein. Because Weinstein flipped on nobody. Weinstein went silent and served time, and the industry moved on. Sean Combs is not going silent. Sean Combs is going home. And Sean Combs is going home because Sean Combs is the one thing everyone in that inner circle spent 30 years praying Sean Combs would never do. Sean Combs talked. Cassie Ventura, the woman who sat on that witness stand and described years of abuse in front of the man who allegedly caused it, is now watching that same man walk out. Cassie Ventura's pain, according to the current logic of this deal, is worth less than the name Sean Combs is willing to trade. Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of Sean Combs' children, detailed years of alleged abuse in a memoir before her death. Kim Porter's account is now competing for airtime with Sean Combs' cooperation. Every survivor connected to this case is being asked, silently and structurally, to accept that the man who allegedly hurt them is more useful to the government free than incarcerated. That is the moral price tag of this pardon. And nobody in Washington is going to say it out loud, but Sean Combs will say it, right here, because this is a sentence the cable news anchors will not put in a cheering. The system is trading survivors for names, and the survivors did not get a vote. Think about that for a second. The women who sat through cross-examination, who relived the worst nights of their lives inside a federal courtroom, who let their bodies and their memories be pulled apart by defense attorneys under fluorescent lights, are now watching the man they testified against walk into daylight because that man had enough dirt on enough powerful people to make a president pick up a pen. That is the actual math of this pardon. Justice was on a scale. Names outweighed survivors. And the survivors are the ones being asked to smile about the outcome. And here's the insider piece that got buried in the noise. On the same afternoon the CBS pardon story broke, Sean Combs' appellate attorney Alexander Shapiro filed a notice with the Second Circuit that in 4 to 6 weeks the defense would formally challenge the sentence. Look at the timing. The appeal notice and the pardon leak dropped inside the same news cycle. That is not a coincidence. That is a signal. When a leak lands that clean and that specific, it lands because somebody in the process wants you to know it is coming. Somebody wanted Hollywood to hear the footsteps before the door opened. Somebody wanted the list to feel real before the pardon made it official. That is how leverage gets weaponized inside a system that already decided the outcome. The leak was not a leak. The leak was a warning shot, aimed directly at every name on that list. So here is where Sean Combs leaves you. Sean Combs leaves you with 2 questions, and Sean Combs wants you to answer both of them in the comments before the pardon is signed, because the pardon may be signed before the weekend is over. Question 1. Do you believe Sean Combs actually gave the federal government a full list? Or do you believe this is a legend being manufactured to justify a pardon that was already going to happen for political reasons? Question 2. If the list is real, whose name do you think falls first? Not who deserves to fall first. Who actually falls first? Because the name that falls first tells you exactly how deep the government is willing to go and how shallow the government is willing to stop. And one more thing before Sean Combs signs off. When the man who hosted the room becomes the government star witness and the president who used to attend the room is the one signing the release, ask yourself who is really running the investigation. The prosecutors or the people the prosecutors are cutting deals with. Because if the answer is the second one, then this pardon is not the end of the story. This pardon is the beginning of a cover-up that will make every other cover-up in modern American history look like a rehearsal. Sean Combs may be free by the fireworks. The name Sean Combs traded may never be free again. And the country that spent 30 years dancing at those parties is about to find out which of its heroes were actually just guests at a crime scene with a better publicist. Drop the name you think falls first in the comments. Drop it before the ink dries. Because once that pen moves, the dominoes are moving with it. And the only people who will survive the fall are the ones who saw it coming.